for men who refuse to stay complacent. Welcome to the Upgraded Man Podcast with your host, Chris Anderson.
Welcome back to another recording of the Upgraded Man Podcast. I'm Chris Anderson, your host. This episode is going to be a good one, and it is for those guys out there who are dads, who want to walk away, in the next 45 minutes to an hour, walk away with the ideas or the guidance to have better relationships with your kids, and even teenagers as they grow up. So super excited to dive into this one. We got Dr. Carla on the show today. Dr. Carla, welcome to the Upgraded Man Podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to our time together.
Absolutely. And we're talking in the green room. First female guest with the new rebrand of the Upgraded Man Podcast. And really excited to have you on and be able to have your expertise on relationships and how fathers can better those relationships with their kids. And so I kind of want to jump right in, right? So there's a dad listening right now. We're going to kind of frame this. He's in his late 30s, early 40s. He's got a teenager, maybe an early teenager son. They used to be best buddies, and now things seem to be a little off, right? He wants this kid to get up and not be lazy. But kid doesn't want anything to do with dad right now, right? So you've sat across from hundreds and hundreds of men and helped them. What does that dad need to hear right off the bat from you?
That's normal. So,
Perfect.
So step one is have some grace with yourself. You're not a bad dad. They're not a bad kid. That's the teenage years for you. So are there some exceptions? Of course, but a lot of times friends come first when in the teen years, and they don't want anything to do with you, or you don't know what you're talking about and you've never been there. So it's normal, but it is not unfixable. So there are ways to get your teens to open up to you again, or kind of bridge that gap that's grown over time between you and them. And you don't have to wait until they're 25 and graduate college. Because it'll happen eventually, but why not get it to happen a little sooner, right?
Yeah. Why does that gap happen? Is it like, because you say it's normal, so is it just a hormonal thing? Is it like, what kind of plays the parts of having that happen?
I think a couple different things happen. I think a lot of times parents, one thing, and especially with dads, because I have a girl I work with, been working with for forever, and she had stress over a test. She went to dad tried to fix it for her. They didn't get into a fight. It wasn't a big problem, but it wasn't working. She wasn't having it. She went to mom, and this is not a mom-dad comparison. It's just like sometimes guys in general just try to fix. They see someone struggling, in trouble, having a problem. They're protectors. They want to fix it, right?
Sure.
So this is what you should do. And she turned him off, and everything he said was no, I'm not doing that. Then she went to mom, and mom said, oh, when I was trying to take the test for the bar exam, I didn't do so well. But these are the things that I did to study, and I passed anyways. And it was kind of just like her being vulnerable and sharing a story about herself, and not saying like, don't feel anxious or just do this or just do that. She just kind of shared something about herself. And then the girl was like, oh, like the anxiety didn't dissipate completely, but the conversation was able to be had. So I think sometimes they're just looking to feel understood and heard. Don't try to fix it. It might not even be a problem. You might think it's a problem. So a lot of times I tell dads, just ask, say they share something with you. Do you want to be heard? Do you want me to, give you some feedback, or do you want me to celebrate you? Is this just a cool thing that happened to you today?
Yeah. So, because, I think I just kind of think back to when I was a teenager and stuff, parents were like, how's your day at school? They're trying to start a conversation as well. And it's like, fine, good. And that was it. It's like, so, how do you still kind of navigate that with the same kind of mindset of like, hey, how can I support you? Or how does, bridging those conversation gaps that seem to be so prevalent in that age group?
Well, I guess I would say, like, think about when you come home from work, and if you have, a wife or whatever, and do you want them just like battering you with questions about everything that happened? Like you
Sure.
probably
Right.
need some time to just decompose or, decompress,
Sure.
excuse me.
Yeah. Decompose.
Um, and the same thing goes for kids. I mean, yes, can they be locked in their room too much at times as teenagers? And of course, but I feel like sometimes we're just like, sometimes we have to put ourselves in their shoes and say like, and ask them like, what do you want right now? Because like you can tell like the energy, like if you're in the car with them, as soon as you pick them up from school, you can tell if they're just like a motor mouth and they want to talk to you, or they're like just shut down and they just need a moment because the day was a lot for them. You just have to kind of listen to those cues.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point. And I think again go back to that fix it mentality too. Like if you pick up on the cues and immediately you want to like figure out what the issue is so you can like solve the problem for them, and instead of just kind of giving them space and allowing kind of them to come to you, because we want to, right, as dads, we want to let our kids know that they can come to us for anything, right? And so walking those conversations of like they know they can come to us no matter what, and not immediately like going to discipline or going to like being upset, like could be a hard kind of path to walk. But I think, would that be kind of the way we need to approach it so those conversations can happen later, so that trust is there and not fear of getting in trouble?
Yeah, I mean, I think they have big emotions that they either haven't felt before or aren't sure how to handle. And then, like you said earlier, like we just want to fix it right away.
Mhm.
And there also is something to be said about their brain. So they're not 25, 30, 35, 40. So they also take a lot of time to process things that we've already processed 10, 15, 20 years ago. So their brain is catching up when we're already trying to fix it. And then they're just like, oh, just stop because it's too much, right? So a lot of times it's also just taking a deep breath and just don't say anything right away.
Yeah.
Like let it sink in. And also that works too for like what they're not building autonomy if they're not problem solving. So it takes them time, the gears are turning and you're already fixing it, but they haven't even gotten to the point where they're ready to fix it. So get them 10, 20, 30 seconds to kind of like process things. Then it's like, hey, do you want some help with that? Or are you good? Or just something as like, man, that sounds like a rough day.
Yeah.
Just literally validating that
Right.
sounds rough, even if you don't think it's rough.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sounds that sounds like a lot.
That's a good point. And so my oldest he's going to be 5 this year, as this recording in 2026. He's going to be 5. So, it's a little bit different. I'm not in the teens yet, thankfully, and hopefully, the years go slow before we get there, but I try to find myself giving him space even now to solve problems, and sometimes I feel like I know I'm helping him, but sometimes I feel like I'm being too, what's the word I'm trying to look for? But, um, I guess not soft enough for him. So, like, when he's struggling with something, I'll just be like, "Hey, you can figure it out. Hey, how could you go about figuring that out? Or what could change that situation?" So if like he's, um, I don't know what he was trying to do the other day. He was doing something, and I said, "Well, what's something you could do to solve that problem?" Oh, he couldn't reach something. He just wanted me to lift him up, and I would love to just lift him up. I know he's 5, and I do still sometimes, but like I was like, well, maybe he could figure this out. And
Yeah.
so I was like, "So how could you solve this? If I wasn't here, Everett, what would you do?" And he thought about it for a little bit, and he went over and he grabbed, one of the like, a storage tote type thing, scooted it over, grabbed some books, put it on top of that, and then climbed up and grabbed what he wanted. And so I was like, "Man, I'm really proud of you. You thought through that and you solved that problem on your own. Good job." Um, and I think, how did like, I don't know, it just because you hear about, hard times make, strong men make easy times make weak men. So, like, balancing, like, being tough on your kid versus making it too easy on him. Do you see that when you're talking to dads? Like, is there a dynamic there? Do you see more dads trying to be too soft nowadays, or there are a lot of the dads you talk to are being way too hard on their kids?
I mean, it's hard to generalize. It's kind of like a case by case. I
Yeah.
see more. if maybe the dad isn't hard on them, or I might see the dad less. So I might see the mom a lot, but I might see the dad less. But honestly, I have a lot of families where the dad is the one reaching out to me. But
Right.
I wouldn't say that they're soft. I think they're actually like open. They're confident enough that they're open enough to look at themselves and say, ooh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Or like they ask me, like, what should I do about such and such a thing? This is happening, And I think that's more of it than there's some dads out there that are just like do it yourself, kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah.
But what you just explained is productive struggle. That's okay.
Yeah.
Like he needs to figure that out. And then, if he falls down and he cuts his knee and he's bleeding, yeah, hug him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you don't want to let,
Right.
but when he's trying to figure out how to get the book down from the shelves, yeah, that's a good little problem solving activity, right?
Yeah.
So, maybe in the store when you don't have time, maybe you just pick them up and grab it. But at home, you can give them the time to do that. So I think you handled it well. And I think, I do see dads that are a little tough at times, but they're also underneath it. They've just been like that for quite some time and they want to be different,
So, okay. So I'm going to give you another scenario that I do. And I love from your perspective, honest feedback on it. Cause I know why I did it, but so there's a thing called Coyote Kids here locally. It's a running thing. Kids from, like 4 and up to teenagers can run it. Different distances. So Everett, he's in the shorter distance. He kind of runs. He's kind of doesn't like being around a lot of people right now. He kind of always trying to figure it out, like what's going on, and very perceptive. And so he'll finish whether we're helping him or walking next to him or whatnot. And everyone who finishes gets a popsicle and a participation ribbon. And so I talked to him. I said, "Hey, buddy, you did not win, so you don't need a ribbon because you didn't win. You didn't come in first, and that's okay." I said, "I still love you. You tried really hard. I'm proud of you because you went out here and did it. And it's okay to lose, but you're not just going to get a ribbon just because you tried, because that's not how life works." I said, "So in this race, you lost." I said, "But that's okay. You tried. You gave your effort, and I love you, and I'm proud of you." And I give the ribbon back. And he doesn't get the ribbon, but he gets a popsicle. I'm not a terrible that bad. So what's your perspective on something like that?
I think that's great. I think it's all about effort and it's about progress.
Yeah.
So I work with a lot of teens. So Everett's 5, he's going to be 15 someday.
Okay.
And a lot of teens that their sole purpose and their identity has become achievement.
Right.
And do we want Everett to achieve? Absolutely. Like, of course. Yet, if he gets a B, are we going to be okay with that? Yeah, we're going to be okay with that. Right. Yep. So if he wins the race, it's a celebration. If he finishes the race, it's a celebration. Yep. If he gets a better time than last time, it's a celebration. Right. Yep. So yes, it's Everett might be a great artist. Everett might not be a great artist, but I hope his art teacher grades him on his effort, not on what the outcome of the art project is. Right.
Yeah.
So again, I think that's great. I think that it's nice for them to give out the awards or the whatever they are, the
ribbons,
medals, ribbons. Yet, no, they didn't win.
Right.
And so I think by you explaining it to him, if you just took a ribbon away and said something, but you're like, hey, yeah, dude, you get the ice cream because you finished. Yeah. Awesome job. You didn't win. Perfect. So again, it's based upon his effort because he ran his hardest. Yeah. And maybe it's a little game of like, ooh, did you get a faster time this time? And then it's just kind of like that progress piece.
Yeah. Yeah. I always joke with my wife. I say, man, I think the kids are probably going to hate me when they get older because I am going to be a little bit more tough on them than I kind of see some other parents doing. Not that the other parents are wrong or anything like that, but just from my perspective of wanting to make sure they're ready for real life and be ready for like you're not going to just get the job because you think you're good at it, or you're not going to just get the promotion because you think you're good at it. You're not just going to be able to have a successful business just because you think you should. I always joke. I'm like, yeah, they're probably going to hate me because I'm going to be a little bit more tougher than probably some of their other parents, but I just want the best for them. And, I don't know. I think and we're all learning this right as we go. And so I'm curious, you said a lot of dads reach out to you, right? You have a lot of dads reaching out to you. What do you hear a lot when these dads are reaching out to you? Kind of what's their like main concern?
So sometimes, like recently, I had a dad reach out just about his son's anger.
Okay.
So, and what's the anger? Something obviously inside of him. He's not sharing it with dad. So there's that avoidance because he's
Yeah.
protecting himself. What's he protecting himself from? Right. I have two brothers, and it's about it's sports. So sports mindset.
Okay.
I have I can think of another family where it was really like their relationship.
Mhm.
Dad's trying to push him to go to the gym. He's a bigger, heavier set kid. He was eighth grade. I had him eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th grade, I think. And, he doesn't want to go to the gym. And, like I have this conflict. And it was more of their relationship. The gym was part of it, but
Uh-huh.
the son would share like, well, this is what dad says. And I feel like this. And, so
Mhm.
I think it's a lot of relationships.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it's all again, it's all relationships. Let's just say that, because when it comes down to it,
Yep.
it's you want to have a good, and it's helping. It's me supporting the kid to remove the resistance. So, like, I'm far enough removed that I'm not emotionally attached. So I can work with this kid and that kid and help you because you've tried this, that, and the other thing, and it's not working because you're too close to it.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the nice piece. But yeah, it's it's a varying, it's just it's just like the moms, it's different reasons that the moms reach out,
Sure.
but it does definitely come down to that connection, those relationships for
Yeah.
sure.
So when they call
Yeah.
you and say, "Hey, this is happening," basically around a relationship. So I want to have a better relationship with my son, my daughter, whatever it is. There's a gap there. Do you have something that you kind of lean into first when you're having that conversation? Maybe something you ask them straight out of the gate to see
Yeah, well,
how
I
they're
mean,
feeling?
right off the bat, it's like, well, what do you think's getting in the way?
Mm,
So what do you think it is? Could it have been someone passed away and there was a major event? Could it be something that's been festering for years? Could it be something that happened to them when they're 4 years old? Could it be more recent? So how deep seated is this, and what do you think it is? And then I'll meet and I ask the kid the same thing because so whenever I meet with a family, I meet with the whole family
okay.
to start off with because I want to get everybody's perspective on what's going on because nobody's doing this alone. I'm not
Yeah.
just doing it with the 13-year-old.
Right.
But yeah, it's like, well, what do you think's getting in the way? And then, like weird, like the follow-up is then, well, what do you want this to look like? Like what's do you want to be, because everybody has what their ideal relationship with their kid is going to look like. And
Right.
okay, so how can we get you there? And the kid might have something different. So it's also respecting what the kid wants it to look like as well. Um, so both people are vested in this. Yeah.
And I'm sure there's different levels, right? Because you'll have to parent differently at different ages. So, like, obviously, my kids are really young. Everett's the oldest at almost 5, and so it's a lot more encouraging, showing the love, like, not as much discipline. I mean, obviously, still discipline a little bit to teach them that, but it's more I don't even know. I don't know the correct terms, but I feel like we're in a building stage kind of with them, whereas what's the kind of those stage levels, I guess, is where I'm getting at, that the way you parent changes as they age.
Well, I think like they're all imprinted in that
Mhm.
that early elementary, mid elementary range of that's when they start beginning to get their habits and their everything is like imprinted at that point.
Okay.
So that part, so I know you brought up discipline and we could talk about that differently, but then it goes to, middle school is it's just a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So middle school, you have to kind of just have a lot of grace and a lot of patience.
Yeah.
That's when they're that's when they start really exploring their identity.
Yeah.
So elementary is more like follow the rules. This is what I want to, like getting to know their habits, their routines. Who
Mhm.
are they? Then it's exploring themselves. Then high school, we get more into independence piece. So it's good to start giving them let them feel natural consequences, let them have productive struggle, and let them kind of explore their identity at Everett's age, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then into middle school within reason. Obviously,
Sure.
there's certain things that you just say no to because that's just not appropriate.
Yeah.
And then in high school, because it's all identity shifts.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
So the stages matter, and they're going to try the goth look, then they're going to try the sports thing. And some kids don't. They just know, and they just go straight through, and that's just who they are, and that's fair enough. But then there's also like, I'm into philosophy. Now I'm into this, so I think it's healthy to support them through all of it. But I think it's really important early on to get them thinking the right way, because their thoughts create their emotions create their behavior, and that creates their life. So if you wait until they're 17, it's not too late, but they've had 10 years of certain things ingrained, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think there was like a stat like that I read, like parents only have until the kid is, I want to say 7 or 10 or something like that, like you mentioned.
Yep.
They only have those years to impact their child for the future, basically. And after 10, it's more external. Their environment, their school, their friends, they have more impact. Those people have more impact than the parents do at that point. And then I can't remember if it was like 18 or something like that. After that, then the parents have like no impact. But then that kind of is where you have a different relationship with them. Is that kind of, am I correct on remembering that?
And that's why it's so important to keep that open communication, because as they get older, they're going to have a car, or they're going to, be off it. And think of how much time you are going to spend with them. If they go to traditional school, of course, someone else is going to have more influence because you don't see them. You never see them.
Yep.
So, so if it's important as possible when you do have that time, make it quality time. I mean, and that's not always possible. Understood. People have really busy schedules, but yeah, that's absolutely right. The influence becomes, so that's why it's so important to get them grounded in who they are early on, because then they can be offered things, good, bad, and otherwise, and they have the ability to stand up for themselves and say yes or say no.
Yeah. And I just think all that, like, I think of the future of like, man, how can I prepare these 3 little munchkins to just be able to take on the world? If something was happening to me, or or just when they're at that point and out there, it's like, am I doing the right stuff? Am I doing the right thing? Did I say the right thing there? Was I too harsh on them on that discipline? And like, it's just because, I mean, you just want to prepare them. And with that, kind of makes me think of discipline, right? I mentioned that a couple times. What are your thoughts on discipline at obviously different ages? Take different discipline on the spanking, on the like timeout type discipline.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe in hitting your kid. So I feel like there's a million other ways that you can communicate to them. And I think that that's just like a knee-jerk reaction, like very reactive. So, I think I truly believe in natural consequences. So if they do X, Y, and Z, and then you take their video game away or whatever it is, that's fine. Yet, like, have you gotten to the root cause of what the concern was in the first place? It doesn't mean you still can't take the thing away, but if you're just taking the thing away and that's all that's happening, that's not good. So, so if you, like, for instance, Everett taking the book off the shelf, he figured it out. Let's say he did that and then it fell on his foot and he started crying. We don't want him to get hurt, yet that was the natural consequence. Okay, I'm going to give you a hug, yet, hey, next time you do this, how do you think you should do it differently? That's an easy fix because that's not a detrimental situation.
Yep.
But, no, I don't really believe in it. I think being proactive with keeping that open communication. So hopefully they do come to you when they're making big decisions, and they're going to make decisions without you, and they're going to be great decisions and they're going to be poor decisions. It's just going to happen. Yet leaving that open communication, because you want them to have the least amount of consequences possible, the least negative repercussions. And sometimes those negative repercussions are just redirection. And, for example, I had like family I worked with, and she was an 8th grader, and mom was just emailing teachers and just sending all kinds of, no, just basically saving her anytime she just decided to get lazy and not do her work or get a C or, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So mom wouldn't let her fail. And the natural consequence in the 8th grade, let her fail. Let her fail the test, retake the class, whatever it is. I know they were in a private school and it costs a lot of money, yet do you want to wait till she's 18 and she can't get the SAT score and she can't get into college? So I know we kind of, we're talking about discipline, but I really just believe in natural consequences. Do you have to put your foot down sometime and like take things away? Absolutely. There has to be consequences, yet making them as connected to the situation as possible. Because if it doesn't relate at all, they're just gonna be annoyed, and you're annoyed, and you're like, I took away the phone, but they did something wrong with nothing. It didn't have anything to do with technology, but I took the phone away. So, and like it sounds like you have the conversations with Everett, and just having the conversation about it with them as well.
And that's been something like we've navigated. Because I mean, I was spanked growing up. I don't have any negative like memories. Like like it was fine. Like I just learned like, and it wasn't like all the time. It was like you got warned a lot, and then it's like, okay, this is the final thing. Like we've warned you. We told you what was going to happen. Here's a consequence. And so we've had that conversation a little bit. We spanked Everett a couple times, and again, it's nothing like what I got spanked like, because I'm sure it felt like that to me when I was a kid, but I'm sure it was the same for my parents. Like you don't want to do it, and so like it's never. But I've started to shift a little bit too, because I don't want them to correlate anything negative to it to doing a wall sit. One, because like, okay, well, it'll make him stronger, and it's a consequence. Because he can't do a push-up yet. What about something like that as like a physical? Like
I love it.
And it's hilarious watching them do a wall sit. For like I count to 5, and they're like barely down in the position, but like they still like. So I'm trying to be different, get them still, hopefully have a benefit of it, and show them the discipline. But there are a couple of things. Like I told him, I said, like if you bully someone else, that's gonna be a straight. Probably a spanking, because like we are not gonna be bullies. Like that's just, there's no tolerance, and you don't hit a woman. I said, so if you hit mom, your bottom's gonna get tapped. Okay. And those are like we talk about all the time, and we obviously haven't had those issues, but just getting it in their head of like those are like 2 non-negotiable type things. And so, but yeah, the wall sit. I was trying to. I saw someone else doing it. They had posted like, yeah, instead of spanking, like we make them do push-ups. Their kids were older, and I was like, well, they could do a wall sit maybe. So we shifted to that. I don't know.
And I think what you said about the communication too, it's like, let's say when he's a little bit older, it's Everett, it's giving them the instruction like, hey, after dinner, please load the dishwasher. Let's say that's his task, right?
Yep.
And it's the expectation that it's done. And you give him a choice. You can do it at right after dinner, or you can do it within an hour, but it needs to be done by 8 p.m. Let's just say, right? And he knows like it has to get done. And then if he doesn't do it, it's the consequence of no iPad, whatever, fine, right? And then he still has to do the thing, so it's like you have to do it anyway. So if you get it done at 8, great. You just move on with your life. If you don't get it done till 10, you still have to do it, and there's a consequence, right? So yeah, but clearly communicating, and then giving them the choice. Like if it's something like that, when you can give them a choice, like if they're hitting someone or they're bullying, that's a different situation.
Right.
And then they really need to look at, it's digging down to, well, what are you thinking about and feeling inside that made you feel so terrible that you had to project that onto someone else?
Yeah.
That's where, in addition to whatever consequence you want to give them, it's that. And then having them face that person and talk to that person, because like you're going to see, he's going to get a phone, and it's so easy. Like, you can hide behind comments, you can hide behind messages, it's very easy to get wrapped up in that. And it's not easy to go up to someone and say something inappropriate to them. It's kind of hard.
Yeah. And that's a whole nother layer, like having a parent through cyber stuff and online stuff that is just crazy to think about, and just trying to protect the best we can as a dad, and just doing our best, right? And so you've helped like tens of thousands of families. You've had a lot of success helping these relationships. Is there one dad relationship with a kid that you still think about or like remember? You don't have to use names, of course, but like there's a disconnect there, and you're able to help them solve that, and it was just one of those moments of like that you'll never forget.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them. I do still love my family that it was dad and two sons,
Mm.
and I still, message them once in a while. I see them on social media, so I kind of know what they're doing. We worked together for a couple years, and the older son, it was more on his relationships with girls and,
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. The younger son, it was his sports and his confidence level, school.
Yeah.
And with both of them, it was so they had a great relationship with dad, yet it, they wanted to make it more connected and even better, right? So they did stuff together, but were they really connected, right?
Mm.
And now I see them like the son, we kind of he had his first girlfriend, we processed through that, and now he's doing well. And the younger son is like playing all the sports, starting, dad's posting all kinds of things. And when I talk to dad, it wasn't broken, but it wasn't working the way it was, and now it's so much smoother. There's open communication, there's not as many arguments. It's never going to be perfect, yet it's a lot better than it was. So I mean, that family, I just love them. And it was a straight up whole male thing.
Yeah.
No girl, no girls.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy. And so with that, like, is it coming back, like the relationship, does it stem back to like the kids just wanting like the approval and respect from the dad more, and the dad's necessarily maybe not giving it, right? He's just trying to fix the problem. Is that kind of like an
Yeah,
underlying?
that's a big part of it. And
Okay.
and it's also a part of, like, from the dad's point of view,
Uh-huh.
that they're so, like, Everett, you're his hero. Like, you're 4, 5, 6, 7. Then they get to middle school and to high school, and it's like so and so's way cooler than you
Uh,
are.
uh,
And you pretend like you don't care, but you care. Like, that's your
sure.
boy,
Yeah.
and you're like,
Yeah.
I thought you were my boy. No, no, I'm going out with so and so now. So there's a big piece of like the letting go on the dad's part too.
Yeah.
And he doesn't mean you have to let him go and he's not yours anymore. It just means you have to let him fly a little bit. And that can be hard.
Yeah.
That can be hard because he always is going to love you, but he's like looking to someone else for certain things he always used to look to you for.
Yeah, how do we navigate that as dads? How do you, like, c walk yourself through that of, like, because like, him and Riley both now are like, "Oh, you're my best friend. You're my best friend." I was like, "Oh, that's good. Don't stop, please." And so eventually that's not gonna happen. So how do you navigate, yeah, when those changes happen and you don't feel like you're the best friend, or you don't feel like there's that hero, view from your kids to you? How does
Yeah,
dad navigate? Yeah.
I think it's a lot of the things we talked about: validating, open communication, hearing them, seeing them. For a practical strategy, what I would suggest is like how you prioritize your time with your kids.
Yeah.
So right now your kids are small, got it. Then it gets busier, then it's driving to soccer and driving to band and all the things, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of times what happens is you get wrapped up in that whole cycle of busyness, and
Yeah.
then they want to go hang out with their friends, and that's fine. But I would say what I use as like a strategy with parents often is to block out like 20 minutes a week with their teenager. Okay.
Mm.
But can you start that younger? Yeah. So 20 minutes a week of not on your phone, not, just strictly like, what does your teen want to talk about? Period. If it's about some video game that you can't stand, listen to them. Just talk about it. If you love sports and they don't, and they want to talk about music, let them talk about music. The point is they have your undivided attention, and more than 20 minutes would be great. But even if, when families get busy, so that's part of it. But it's also like the emotional piece on dad's side, a lot of times it's all moms, but you're letting go of them just as much as mom's letting go of them as they go into middle school, high school, and as they, leave the home, right?
Right.
And that is keeping the open communication, but also like, can you communicate that to your kid? Can you be vulnerable with them and just say, I'm so excited that you have these awesome friends, and I also love our time together, and keep it in the schedule of like, I don't know, go to a museum together or go play soccer, whatever you guys like to do, but just keeping that alive as long as you possibly can until obviously, they move out. But
Right.
there's no magical fix for you're
Yeah.
gonna have emotions that you're gonna feel sad
Yep.
about it,
Yeah.
but also knowing that they're in good hands and they've chosen great friends and you've given them that foundation. Mhm.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, again, it's just in my mind, it's always a battle of like, all right, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing?
Yeah, you get like doubt, second
Yeah.
guessing. Yeah, yeah.
It's crazy, but and so with that, like we're having these thoughts, like, what can we do better? If there's the dad out there listening, he's got young teenagers. What's one thing that he needs to stop doing this week that you see consistently in these relationships that are holding him back from having the best relationship with his kid?
I think regulating himself.
Mm,
So oftentimes, it's you want your teen to not give you an attitude or not shut down or not get angry, but then are you doing those things? So if you're a real calm dad and you're approaching it in the right manner, awesome. If you realize they're pushing your buttons and you're letting them, you got to handle your stuff,
mhm,
and don't just react, respond, and really like lower your tone, give them some space if they need it. It's we just want to be the parent and what we say goes, and that has to be that way sometimes in certain
yeah,
situations. But check yourself,
yeah,
like really, if you had a rough day at work and you're coming home and you're really upset, don't come in the house yelling at everyone, because maybe you need to go for a walk for a few minutes and handle it on your own, or maybe you need to, whatever you need to do, go ground yourself, go take a nap, and just communicate to everybody that I'm out of commission right now, and then rejoin the family later.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think lead by example, right? And so
Yeah. Yeah.
easier said than done sometimes, obviously, for everybody. But
Hmm.
and I think that goes to kind of knowing yourself a little bit, like understanding what ticks you off quicker than other things, and when you get overstimulated, and be able, like you said, kind of process through and show like, all right, you guys are really irritating me right now. It's not gonna be good, so I'm gonna go out here for a second. And so, and just kind of having those open conversations. But if if a teen has that, maybe it's not because you talk about they're not motivated, they don't do anything, and maybe it's not a motivation. Like I know you've talked about before, is it's not a motivation problem, but it's an identity problem. So how can we start helping that relationship as a dad, um, helping them with that identity of their own, so they can,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think it's seeing them where you want them to be, not
yeah,
seeing them where they are right now. So it's like with anything else, say you run a business,
mhm,
and you want it to be at such and such a level, but you're stuck and you're not getting, it's not working right now. So if you focus on what's not working, not working, not working, is your business going to get better? No. You kind of have to be delusional, be like, I have the best business in the world, and
yep,
take all the action steps towards that, right?
yep,
It's the same thing with the kids. So instead of saying like, you're so lazy, you always forget to do your homework, da,
mhm,
da, da, are there going to be moments where you get frustrated? Yes. Don't,
right,
but is that going to help the situation? Like,
no,
that's not going to help the situation.
right,
So, it's when you do see, if let's just say it's a homework thing and they're not getting their homework in, and you want to tell them how lazy they are and this and that. When they do pass in that one assignment, and when you do see their grade go up, or it's celebrating those small wins and seeing them where you want, oh, I knew you put a lot of effort in, and I saw your grade go up. Or,
mhm,
just it's focusing on it's choosing what you want to focus on.
yeah,
So, I mean, in a situation where they are not motivated, there's a lot that goes on around that, but it starts with you seeing them where they can't see themselves right now. The potential they have, and kind of injecting that potential into them versus injecting where they are right now into them all the time. Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah. So I coach middle school soccer as well. So I don't have middle school boys, but I coach them. So I have a little bit of connection with them. And I see that same thing of like, I see their potential. And so I have to navigate that journey of, you guys are really messing up at practice right now, but like you have so much potential. And that's why I'm getting on like this drill so much because we are not doing it to where I see your potential at. Like you guys are way better. Like you are so much better in this. Like we have to keep working on this drill to get to where I know you can be and trying to motivate them, but also teach them discipline and, the hard work part. So, I get a little bit of that, not my own. So it's easier because it's not actually my own kid and they're not with me 24/7. But yeah, that's and it's the same. Like, so have you heard people I try to learn constantly and had learned, or someone said something that you don't want to say, "Hey, I'm so proud of you. You work so hard. I'm so happy that you work so hard." But instead, you're supposed to shift the wording to be, instead of focusing on like that they worked hard, that hey, you were really creative right there, or you were really like things like that. And does that make sense? Is that right? Correct? Or is that
like you're talking about like, well, I guess like it kind of sounds to you what you're saying is a bit of growth mindset kind of thing.
Yeah.
As well as, I mean, so it's not focusing on the outcome per se.
Right.
If they don't bring home an A, but you saw them like 2 weeks working on this project, whether you say you worked hard on it or you gave a lot of effort, or point is I'm recognizing that you did your best on this.
Okay.
And you may not have done this paragraph right and that paragraph right. So I see why you got the B, yet, like great work, and so you're recognizing that effort and that, and it's to kind of tie in the last two things you talked about. It's the way that you're talking to them is like, you have the potential, you see the potential in them. You see the hard work they put in the project. You see the job they did on the soccer field. And it's like, they're borrowing that belief from you because they're not believing in themselves if they're not motivated, or so you have to kind of let them borrow that belief until they can have that belief on their own. But if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a good point to have, is like, just like words of affirmation, I think, right? Like just building into them.
And the thing about affirmations is also giving them, like reminding them of the evidence, because they're not going to believe it right away. If you say right away, like, "Oh, you're so smart," or like, "I am smart," and they just got a D, they're like, what's wrong with you? Right.
Yeah.
But if you're like, but remember, when you got, I don't know, this test and that assignment, and remember you read this book and whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, actually I am smart. I just like didn't study for that test. Or then they start to realize like, I just didn't, or I just blew it. I just didn't, I don't know. I was spaced out, whatever it is. But point is it's the affirmation, but it's also the evidence. Like that is what gives them that self-belief of like, I did it last time, I could do it again.
Yeah. And I think it's reminding them like this season of soccer, I go back to that because they're teenagers. They're at that age. I said, guys, obviously we want to have a winning season, but we need to focus. All we need to focus on is each moment and what we can control. And doing those little things right, and the outcome will be the outcome. But as long as we're doing the little things the best we can, whatever the outcome is, it is what it is. But we can only focus and control ourselves in these moments. And that's the most important thing. I say, because in life, all you can focus on is what you can control in this moment. And whatever the outcome is, it is what it is. And so we kind of really focus on that this season. And it seemed to help. It seemed that they kind of understood that. They probably got annoyed with me saying that, because I would always say, "Hey, let's do the little things right. Let's focus on the little things." And I think
you'd be surprised they're listening.
Yeah, which that's another thing too. Like I feel like sometimes when I'm talking to them, again, I'll go to them because they're teenagers.
Yeah.
I'm like, they probably think I'm the stupidest person alive. They probably think I'm the are they actually listening? Like,
so what's getting in the way for you there is the question, because You're what you're saying right there is like if your soccer team can get like, I don't know, their 3-point passes or their corner kicks are better, or whatever it is, are on point and way better than last year. And let's say you didn't score one goal, that's the growth. But yeah, I mean, you're judging yourself right there when you're actually telling them the right thing. It's just they're not going to give you the validation of like, coach, you're so great. Thank you for the talk. No, they're gonna roll their eyes at you and they're just gonna make fun of you, right?
And,
like,
exactly.
And that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to annoy you, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. And that's a good reminder because I'm like, I don't know if they're taking this in. I talked to my assistant coach. I'm like, they're probably like, what is coach talking about? What is he on right now?
But you'd be surprised if I could tell you about a male story. My sixth grade travel coach, soccer, because I played soccer, basketball, and softball. I flew back home to see him like last year. I'm still in touch with him. Like he was my coach for 7 years, middle school and high school. I mean, he took out the whiteboard, he'd have his markers, would have our oranges, but I think he was a mindset coach before mindset coaches were a thing. Yeah. And I think our team did well. We had a lot of fun. We won a bunch of tournaments and stuff, but outside of that, now that I'm doing, the field that I'm in with the mindset, I can definitely know that I pulled a lot from what he said. So if that's encouraging to you, know that they are listening, and they're probably not going to be pro soccer players, but it's going to help them in their career and their relationships and their life in the future. So keep at it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's good. And I'm like, I'm here to make you better soccer players and more importantly, better men. And if we win, that's great too. Like obviously we want to win competition, but at the end of the day, we want to get better at soccer. We want to get better as individuals. So kind of round out the conversation, what would you say? Because we talked about dads, focusing on themselves, like taking care of maybe things that don't align with what they're trying to get their kids to do, leaving space for their kids to feel comfortable speaking to them or talking to them, spending time with their kids. Is there anything in the next 30 days that a father should implement to start improving their relationship with, their sons, their kids that we haven't mentioned?
That we haven't mentioned.
Yeah.
We talked about the communication. We talked about making it a priority, setting a time aside. I don't know if we talked about it, but a little bit of just being able to be vulnerable with them. You had a rough day at work and you shared like how you overcame a certain situation. And that might not be, for a 4-year-old, but as they get older, instead of just saying like, be resilient, so they're like, what does that even mean? But maybe it's like, you had touched on it earlier, like modeling, like they don't know what you do all day or how hard it is. They're in their own world, and vice versa. So it's just, maybe it's being vulnerable and sharing, like, I had this challenge at work, this is how I overcame it. And that just kind of, they may just say great and not care, and you think they don't care, but that opens the door. It's kind of like, now they know that you're leveling with them, they can level with you too. So yeah, a little bit of vulnerability.
I like that. I think that's a good one. And I think the story aspect, because in business, we hear facts tell and stories sell. People are drawn to stories. That's why they love, music. They love TV. They love reading because the stories, they can relate to things with the characters. And so trying to have the stories to be able to relate or to be able to share that the kids can relate to, I think that vulnerability piece too is important, because I feel like if they see you as, they're perfect, they never mess up, they never have a bad day, well, they don't want, how can I speak to them about that? But if you can be vulnerable and open of like, this is a rough day, this is what happened, and we're going to keep moving forward, or this is how I responded, things like that. I think, that would be a huge,
because you're the one always telling them what to do as they grow up, obviously. And that's okay. That's normal. That's what your job is. Yep. And you get less resistance because you're going to keep telling them what they need to do. And one day they're just going to be like, they're just going to give you a bunch of resistance. They're not going to be for anymore, and they're going to be annoyed with you. But then then they're just going to think in their heads, why don't you do it yourself? Right. So that's still going to happen. You're not going to
Sure.
avoid that.
Sure.
Yet, it's showing that you're human too. And yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one
Mhm.
to start implementing. How can we be a little bit more vulnerable with our kids based on their
It's
age? Yeah,
it's scary,
right.
but it's okay. It's
Yeah,
scary. Just, give it a shot. What's the
absolutely.
worst that could happen? They get annoyed with you anyways.
Yeah. Anyways, right. Exactly. And I think it's I love nature. I love being outside. I
Mhm.
love God's creation is what he's done out there and what he stories he tells through nature. And I think we just planted a garden. And I kind of see it
Mm.
as that like kids are like the soil, and like we're trying to put all these different things, respect, discipline, hard work. We're putting these seeds by our actions. We have to take action to do it. And then we've got to nurture that. So you still have to have those conversations. You still have to be vulnerable. You still have to spend time with them. And that's like the watering and the sun, piece to it, because that allows those seeds to then to grow in their life. And if you don't do that, then nothing's going to happen, right? So there's nothing we produce from it. And so, but there's that patience piece, because once you plant it, you water it, you get the sun, you get all that. Nothing just pops up right away. It takes
Mhm.
time, and certain
Mhm.
seeds take longer than others to start showing and growing and then even producing fruit. So that's kind of where my mind went to after kind of, our conversation with everything you kind of shared and guided us through today. So, um,
Mhm. Mhm. So true. And
yeah,
it's knowing your kids too, because you're gonna
yeah,
like
yeah,
I've had brothers and sisters or
yeah,
and it's this one's really organized, this one isn't, this one's really creative, and so you're gonna have to train them to be a certain way, and certain things are going to be really easy with one kid, and then you're gonna have to train them to help them with other areas. So
yeah,
it's individual, but it's also, yeah, you want to have them check all the boxes, and are we strong
yeah,
in all the areas? And it takes time and patience. The I just actually transplanted some plants today, so that metaphor was right on point, because
nice.
I
That's
was
awesome.
I was thinking about it.
Yeah,
And parents will work with me, and then it's like, well, this didn't happen yet, this didn't happen yet. I'm like, and then give it a minute, and then boom, oh, they're like, whoa, where did that come from? And
yeah,
so just keep telling your soccer players all the things, because one day if it hasn't sunk in already, it'll sink in.
yeah. No, that's a good reminder for sure. So, if there's one thing you could tell a dad listening right now, what would you want to leave them with?
I would say, have some grace with themselves.
Mm,
They're not perfect. They're never going to be the perfect parent. If you're giving your time, effort, energy to the best of your ability, and you're always trying to improve yourself for your kids and your family, that's the best any kid can ask for. Is a genuine, kind, loving dad that's giving the best with the skills that they have, and keep learning different skills and trying to do new things with your kids. And know, like you said, it's just going to take some time, but have grace with yourself. It doesn't happen overnight. And if you're, trying to be a better parent, kudos to you. Yeah.
yeah, I love that. I think
Yeah.
that's a great message for dads
Mhm.
listening, and it's been a great conversation. So I appreciate you, being on and sharing your expertise for dads listening to this, or soon to be dads, or people who want to be dads in the future. And I think it tracks with all that. And so shifting to the kind of our end cap to the episodes that were started. I have the Upgraded Man journal right here. And what we're doing is each guest is leaving something for the next guest to think about or to respond to. And so I'm going to read you what Dr. Bobby Shelton left from episode 503, and kind of let you respond um and kind of sit with this. So what he left for you is, are you the person you want to be, or are you just thinking about it?
Mm, I like that. That's an identity one.
Yeah.
I think that am I giving an answer?
Yeah, you can for sure.
I think in many respects I am that person, and in many respects, because I've stepped into an identity that I'm in now that I wasn't in, say, previously,
Mhm.
and I'm currently not other things that I want to become next, right? So I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's certain things that no longer serve me, they're gone, that's out of the picture. And there's some things that I'm hanging on to that I probably could let go of.
Yeah.
And then I'm here where I'm at right now, but am I the next person of, am I at that next level yet? I'm working on it day by day. And I love that. Ooh, I want to steal that. So I
There, you
guess
can
the
have it.
answer is a little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love it
Ooh.
because that kind of meshes right with, the purpose of the show, Upgraded Man. It's not about a destination. It's not about hitting a certain tier or a certain level. It's about the journey. And we're never
Mhm.
done, and we're always wanting to improve, and just keep getting better each day. And so I love that. And so now my question to you is, what would you want to leave for our next guest, whether that be a quote, a comment, a question? What do you want
Okay.
to have in the Upgraded Man journal?
Yeah, I like the quote. So the quote, like always, that stuck with me as a kid was like, treat others like you want to be treated. And that was what was told to me by, I think it was my dad, amongst other people, obviously, right? And I like to kind of almost upgrade that quote and say, like, treat yourself like you want others to treat you.
Mm,
So you want to, treat everyone else kindly, but I think sometimes we forget that, or maybe we don't forget, but are we reflecting on how we're treating ourselves?
yeah.
And so I think that would be the quote I would share for the next person of, you know, around kindness and around, self-respect and
I love it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Treat others the way you want to be treated, and then treat yourself the way you want others to treat you.
Yes, yes.
That's good. That's a great one. And I'm excited to see the next guest, whoever that might
Me too.
be,
Me
and how they
too.
respond. So y'all have to tune in to show, follow the show, so you can see the answers to that quote from our next guest. But again, Dr. Carla, thank you again so much for being on here, sharing your expertise for men to become better fathers and just have better relationships. And if people want your help, if they want to connect with you, where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, social media is good. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can send me a message, follow me. Pretty low key. I have some bunch of YouTube videos if you're interested. And if you really liked it, give me, we can book a call and see how I can help their family. But
Cool.
just a lot of valuable information out there for anybody that wants to improve and just upgrade themselves and their family. I'd be happy for them to reach out. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So guys, if you're needing help, you want to improve your relationship with your kids, with your families, definitely reach out to Dr. Carla and just continue to get help from her. And but make sure you're following the show if you're not already. It just helps us get this in front of more people, and then share it with a dad or maybe your father, uh, and help us help more people together by doing that. So, but again, Dr. Carla, thank you so much for being on the Upgraded Man podcast today.
And Chris, thank you so much for having me. It was great. I love the conversation. Thanks for all your, vulnerability today too. You shared a lot about yourself and your family. So made for an amazing hour. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you again next time.